You can do it. Come on. Babe, hurry. Pepper's about to say her first word.
Come on, go.
Ford.
Oh, no!
Ford.
Where did she learn that from?
Not from me.
Ford.
Okay, so who remembers last time when I said not everything can go smoothly all the time? Well, it turns out it's not just us.
That's right. Today, it's not our fault, okay? What we have here going on is everybody's worst nightmare, really. We had some friends that they've got a daughter off in college. They're away from town. Called us up and said, hey, what should we do? I didn't feel good about sending them on the road that far. I said that the thing to do would probably be to have somebody look at it and repair it there if possible. And that's what they tried to do.
Tried to.
It's
the key word there.
Right. We'll get into the story of it while we're doing the video, but it went for just a basic repair, and now it caused the engine to fail, okay? So I am going to tear this engine apart today, but in the meantime, we're also going to take it as an advantage to show you some of the worst engineering ever done, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm not picking on Ford. This is a Ford 1.5 Ecotech motor, I believe is what they're called.
Eco
right?
something.
Yeah, Eco something. So we're going to get into some of the flaws of this thing, and then we're going to tear it apart and see how much damage is done.
Okay.
So let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. So first of all, you might notice we're holding it up with straps. It only weighs 213 pounds with the flex plate bolted to it, okay? So these will hold it just fine. Don't ever do that with something heavier, okay?
Yeah, don't do that with an LS.
No, I don't want to see somebody's foot get smashed.
No.
You know, right? So what happened with this thing? This engine only has 70-some thousand miles, less than 75,000 miles. And they ran to O'Reilly's. They sent me a picture of what the engine code was, and it had a code in it for the upstream oxygen sensor. So that was my point of where I didn't want them to drive it that far with a bad O2 sensor. I was concerned that it would destroy the catalytic converter, okay? And the converters on these, they're not cheap. And the reason we know that is because what these people did was put a catalytic converter in it,
Yes.
2 oxygen sensors, and they replaced the spark plugs on it, okay? Now, great, that'd probably fix your problem. You got 5 different parts there that might have fixed it. So they threw a bunch of parts at it, but it ended up having a really, really bad misfire, and that's why when they got it back to town here, they brought it to us. And immediately on something like this, when you have a misfire, you think spark plugs. But at 70,000 miles, that's a little crazy. If you had an engine that was failing or something like that, maybe take a spark plug out at 70,000 miles. But for the most part, these run into the 120,000 mile without needing the spark plugs replaced on them. Not saying you shouldn't replace them sooner, but they usually go a long time without that. So that kind of made me suspect something different, you know? And it's lucky that I thought about that a little bit, because what I would have normally done would have been to take and pull the spark plugs out, throw 4 new spark plugs in, regardless of what they look like really, and then put it back together, see how it goes. Well, when I went to pull the spark plugs out of this engine, it's a coilover plug, so you've got a spark plug that's dropped straight down, okay? And before I do anything with the coilover plug, I always blow it out. Make sure the intake's covered and everything, and I'll go in here and I'll blow pressurized air, and don't just blow on it. You've got to use air compressed air.
Yeah.
And I'll try to clean that out as best I can, because it's always dusty and dirty and whatever with that many miles. And then at that point, I'll take the number 1 coil out, okay? And I'll just do one at a time, even though it is fun to do them all at once. But usually I'll just do one at a time, just for the reason of the possibility of something blowing into the other spark plug holes.
Yes.
So I'll take a coil out, I'll blow out that spark plug hole again because the boot is sealing off the spark plug hole, hopefully. And I'll blow that out and then I'll pull my spark plug out once I know it's clean around the base of the spark plug. Well, so I did that on number 1. I pulled the spark plug out. It didn't look the greatest, but it didn't look good either, okay?
Yeah.
So I left it alone at that point, and I went to do the number 2, and I couldn't get my spark plug socket over the spark plug. So there was a piece of debris. Now, the other problem with one of these engines is where it sits in the body of the car, you cannot see straight down into the spark plugs. So I was curious at that point because there had been a lot of weird things going on with this one. So we took our Anykit lab scope and I looked down into the hole into the spark plug, and there was a broken piece of spark plug material sitting next to the spark plug that I was trying to drop this down over.
Yeah.
So if there's a broken piece there, then I must have a broken spark plug somewhere. So at that point, I carefully took them all out, cleaned it all before I pulled the spark plug out. Made sure with that Anykit thing, the horoscope, that there wasn't anything that was going to drop in the holes when I did that. I pulled them out, and none of the spark plugs were broken. 2 of them are cracked.
Yes.
Okay, but none of them are broken.
Yeah.
So there's a mysterious pieces
Extra
of a spark plug.
plugs.
And we looked around a little bit, and it's also got debris from it laying all over the top of this engine.
Yeah.
So this is where I'm hoping when you do work like this, you kind of get a scenario in your head of what might have happened. And I hope people give me a really good scenario.
Yeah, we want to hear what you think happened.
Yeah, of what happened. But the one thing I found out, I learned about these, and these have been around this is a 2018. They've been around for a little while. But I found out that when you take the harmonic balancer off of this engine, I'm going to turn the flywheel, so you'll be able to see the flywheel turn, okay? Okay. You see the flywheel turn? Mm-hmm. But you don't see the camshafts turning.
No.
All right? Now, how in the world could that possibly be?
I don't know.
Okay?
I don't like it.
Right. I don't blame you. This lower gear, what you'd call that, the belt
Like
gear,
the crank.
pulley,
Sprocket.
I think is what they call it, a pulley.
Yeah, probably for a belt.
All right. Ooh, it's hot.
My goodness.
We got Toasty fired up.
Old Toasty.
So why does that happen? Because this lower pulley does not stay stationary with the crankshaft unless it has the harmonic balancer and the bolt with the bolt pushed up against it and tight. That's what holds this in place with the crankshaft.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, so it does not have a keyway like most engines do. It totally relies on that bolt and the harmonic balancer pinching against it and the snout on the crankshaft. So you didn't know that, okay, which a lot of people would take that harmonic balancer off for some reason and then went and just bolted it right back up because it kind of looked like an LS or a Honda.
Yeah.
Hondas do that. Just slip right on, tighten them down, you're good to go. But not in this case. And if you did that, like now, since we've moved that, if we rocked it over, it won't do it because I got these on top dead center. But if these weren't on top dead center, number 1 right now, you could rotate that around and you're going to have piston to valve clearance problems. It's going to come up and smack a valve. The only thing good about this engine is I had to buy a tool for it. Okay, and we always look for reasons to buy tools.
Yes.
And this one gave us plenty of reasons. So, and there's literally you'd have to do some serious work to do it without the tools, so you're locked into it.
Yeah.
And also, the tools that I bought, and we'll show them to you here in a second, you'd have to have it to do a timing belt also. I should have turned it the other way. Why don't I get one of those twisty things?
I don't know. How many times have we had comments that say, why don't you get one of those twisty things?
Yeah. So first of all, before I show this tool, the lab scope thing, by having that lab scope, that thing saved me countless hours. And what would have happened if I'd gone ahead and thrown spark plugs in this and it not fixed it, I would have felt obligated to continue to look at what's going on with it. I would have spent so many hours that I could have never billed them for it, trying to figure that out. But by having that thing, I was able to look at something that I couldn't physically see it from the vantage point that I was. Even if I used a mirror or whatever, it still would have been tough. That thing saved me a lot, okay? Yeah. So I'm not a tool salesman, but I should be.
Yeah, we do love the IndyCat.
So we had to buy this tool set, and we'll go over each piece on it. This tool set covers a couple different Ford motors, the 1.5 and the 1.6, and I think some other ones too, okay? So in order to time this, then what you have to do is you have to make sure that your cams are at top dead center. They have a mark on them. There's a little O there, and then there's like a 1. I call it an I and an O. You would think that it would be intake and exhaust, but this is the intake cam and that's the exhaust cam. So why would they why would they make that right, you know?
Thanks, Ford.
So it wasn't sitting right where it was supposed to be because I did take that off and had rotated that. But what I had to do was I rotated the engine clockwise. I always turn these clockwise, and I had to get it to where this tool locks those cams into place. And then the tool identifies, there's the 0, the O, and the 1, the I, okay, whatever it is. Okay. With an arrow pointed up. So according to Ford, then with those locked in that position, this cam is set on top dead center, number 1 cylinder. Okay. Okay. So the next part of it is, you know, how do you know where your crankshaft is up on top dead center? Because it spins freely. Well, you could take the spark plug out, I guess, and stick some kind of measuring device down there and know that it's up at top dead center. But the procedure calls for a certain tool to do it. Another socket. On the side of the engine block over here, there's this plug. Okay. Take that plug out. Okay. And then we're going to replace that plug with this tool. Okay. Okay. All right. So with the tool in there, I'm going to gently, oh so slightly, just turn it over. Okay. And it came to a stop. It is just going through the engine block, and it's sticking through to where it stops the crankshaft journal at top dead center. So just out of curiosity, I want to make sure that that's what's going on. So I'm going to take this spark plug out.
I always love Fords because every piece says Ford.
Oh yeah, they love to put their name on stuff. So does GM though. Okay. And like I said, normally before I did this, actually I would do one at a time. I'd blow it out before I took the spark plug out. If at all possible, take a look inside there and make sure nothing's gonna drop in it. It has a little ridge on the cylinder head to like where something would have to like get bumped to go over the little ridge. But if you're blowing stuff around, it'd go in there easily, you know? Yeah. And it's gonna go down into a hole that's fairly large. You know? And then at that point, I have never seen anybody that was able to fish anything out of a cylinder, okay? So that was the number 1 spark plug, and it looks fine.
Except for where it's cracked?
Yeah, this one's not cracked. Right? Oh no, this one is cracked. Okay, I couldn't remember which ones we ran into, but so this was a new spark plug, and this one is cracked for some reason. So when I saw it cracked, I was thinking, maybe one of them will be really busted up, and then that's where that material came from. But that wasn't the case. Okay, so there's number one, and we can just stick that down there, and we'll be able to see if I move this and it drops down, then we know we're at top dead center, and it dropped down, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So
Sweet.
if I pull this out, it should drop down there. Does that make sense? All right, so oh no, goes up. See?
Uh-oh.
So.
Ooh. I'm glad you checked that.
Yes. See, so that was probably on the wrong side of a throw on the crankshaft. So that's the part where, like, if you were timing one of these, you'd want to double check stuff like that.
Yes.
Because by taking that balancer off there, you don't know where things are. So I'll rotate it now. Okay. So it stopped on that tool, and that should be top dead center. I'll do it again. I'll pull the tool out, and it should drop, right?
Yes. Yes.
Drops immediately.
There we go.
Okay. So that's top dead center. So we found 2 top dead centers. So that's something that, like, when you read the procedure, it doesn't tell you about. So I would totally check that.
Yeah. Check and double check and.
Yeah. But you're also, it says all over the place, do not take that bolt out without these locked at number 1 and your crankshaft locked. Okay?
Okay.
So right now we know that the number 1 cylinder's up to top dead center. So we've got that tool we're using. We've got the pin in there. And then you got to use this tool. All right, so the next step on doing one of these would be to lock the crankshaft into the top dead center position, okay? And you do it with this tool, comes with that kit. So I'm gonna tighten this little bolt up right there. If I was doing this on the car, I think you just use the starter bolts.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Oh, so that thing's not really down in the tooth, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna loosen it up. Is it down?
Yep.
Good. Good. I'm gonna tighten that little piece in its tooth. All right, so that tool, it's holding the crankshaft still. So now, according to the procedure, crankshaft's supposed to be at top dead center. These are definitely at top dead center with that tool in it. At that point, like if you were doing a timing belt on it, which the interval for a timing belt on this car is 150,000 miles, and the labor on it on a labor guide is only 8.8 hours.
Oh, that's all?
So at the average shop or dealership, that'll be anywhere between $1,000 and $1,000 or $1,500 in labor just to do a timing belt.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Every 150,000.
And I honestly think it would take a total of 8 hours.
Yeah.
After doing it. So at that point, you would take the tension off the tensioner. It's got a spring tensioner on that pulley. This is what keeps your timing belt tight. You take the tension off of it by turning that, and you put a pin that goes from here through there, and that'll hold it in place while you replace the belt. So then You go with it at this point. You put your new belt on. You let the tension off your tensioner again. The belt has no mark in it or anything like that, or where it's supposed to line up. It's just top dead center crank. So then you have to take the crankshaft position sensor off. Which that's a pretty vital part, right? Mm-hmm. People tend to need those. Okay.
I don't lose it.
So there's crank position sensor. The reason you got to take it off is because this thing has to be timed also.
Oh no.
All right, because the crankshaft position sensor is reading the ring on your harmonic balancer. So now your harmonic balancer has got to be put on at top dead center also into the correct position. So it comes with this other part in the toolkit, and it's going to get mounted on, and then see the hole there? We're going to line that up.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice hammer you got.
Oh, thank you. Snap-on hammer or sockets say absolutely go ahead and use this as a hammer. Mm-hmm. For hammering on is what the instructions say. Mm-hmm. And that baby fits in there tight. But you want to make sure it's sitting flat and then bolted down tight. Of course, you'd put your covers back on right now. Also, while I'm talking about it, what do you think you'd have to do to put a water pump on this car?
I don't know. I would start by crying.
No, crying's not going to get the job done.
Oh.
Cry the day before the car shows up. Okay.
Ooh, okay. Preemptively cry. And
Yes.
then...
But it's just like a Honda, and the water pump is underneath the timing belt.
Yeah.
So in order to do a water pump on this car, it's going to require the 8.8 hours to do that.
Yeah.
But Ford's used to that. I don't remember which engine it is. 3.5, is that right?
Something like that. We did.
Where it's a $2,000 water pump job.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
it's underneath the timing chain.
Yeah, I remember that one. There's another one you had to buy a new tool for, and
Yeah. Okay, so I had to carefully push that down onto that position. Okay, it just rotates. It's not a press fit on that. I guess some of them, the 1.6, that thing comes with a puller for the 1.6. But the puller on this one, I did have some trouble getting this one off. And you can see where I pounded on it to get it off. If this wasn't a junk motor, this is going into the scrap metal.
yeah.
I absolutely would have never pounded on that. If I didn't have a puller, I'd make a puller for it and pull it out of there. But I knew this one was going into the scrap bin, so I was okay with doing that. But I noticed on this one, when I timed it, the motor that we put in there, it slid right off. And, but this thing has 20,000 miles. This engine, I put a used engine in it with 20,000 miles.
Yeah.
So, all right. So the harmonic balancer is being held by that tool in its spot. All right. And just because I like to mark things, I'm gonna put what I consider my top dead center mark on that, just so I know for reference. Mm-hmm. So, and then you would go to Ford. You buy a brand new bolt for this, $4.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. On Amazon, they have one on Amazon, and we'll put a link to it. It's only $19.
Ooh.
So go ahead and buy the one at Amazon. If it saves you a bunch of money in gas, right?
Yeah.
Go in there. But Ford sells them for $4. Okay.
Yeah. Don't reuse it for $4.
Oh, I also saw them on Rock Auto.
Ooh.
So at any time in the future, if I ever had to do a timing belt on one of these, I would order a bolt with it also.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's probably like the Hondas where there's a kit with the water pump and the belt,
Yeah.
I would guess.
So right there, everything's supposed to be timed perfectly. At that point, I would take and torque it down to its spec. The specs on this motor said 75 foot-pounds initially. Oh, seems like a lot. Okay, there's 75, and then the next torque value after 75 pounds, and mind you, this is with a brand new bolt. That's a used bolt. Mm-hmm. We're not going to waste $4 making a video.
No.
Right? So now the torque would be another 90 degrees, okay, which is like an L shaped, right? Yes. 90 degrees. And then get this. This is what the procedure says, okay?
Oh no.
Wait 2 seconds. Okay?
Okay.
So then after 2 seconds, then go another 15 degrees. So a total of 105 degrees, right?
But you have to stop and wait. And
2 seconds.
2 seconds.
2 seconds. And if you wait 3 seconds, I think you have to start over.
Oh yeah, don't wait too long.
I'm not kidding. It says it on the procedure. Okay?
Oh, Ford.
So I'm not going to bother doing that because I don't think this is probably a torque to yield bolt, but still, it's not the right bolt. But that's what we would do. We would torque it to their stupid specs, and there you have it. You're done putting the timing belt on it. But what they want you to do then is check your work according to the procedure. So at that point, you'd remove your pin. Okay. So that's out. You would remove the lock for the cam gears. Okay. Then you'd come over here. Okay. So that tool's removed. Okay. All right. So all the tools are removed. So at that point, we'll just use the Danpo torque wrench to rotate it around. So what they want you to do then is they want you to turn the engine one. Oh, it's got compression now. Didn't have very good compression without the cams moving.
Funny how that works.
Okay, so there's one rotation. And then they want you to do like 1 3/4. So we'll go right there, okay? So, and at that point, then you would put your tool back in. Then, carefully, now, because you're using some leverage, you're gonna rotate it around till we bring the crankshaft up against that tool again, okay? So right there, it stopped. It's up against the tool. Take your locking plate. I mean, it's pretty precise. It's only going to go in there one way.
Yeah.
And if this thing slides in there nicely and you don't have any kind of, if it would be off just a bit, you know, or whatever, if it didn't slide in nicely like that, then you would want to redo the procedure all over again until you got that, because otherwise you would assume that gear was not held well enough and it will be off time.
Yeah. And
Ford says it will cause drivability issues.
My goodness.
Okay.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah. All right, so there you have it. That one worked nicely, and even then we only tightened it down the first torque to 75. But whatever you do, get a brand new bolt, tighten that baby down to their specs.
Yes.
And it's probably different from engine to engine, the way Ford and all the other ones do that are kind of screwy. So look specifically for that year. That's something we have a lot of questions about that I always have to just come right back at people and go, what year are we talking about and what it come out of? And because it can vary That's why that tool set has so many different styles, you know. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to complain about it a little bit for a second. Why I say that? I think everybody will agree with me that that is terrible engineering. Now, I just did this with this sitting on a cherry picker. The starter on this car is very difficult to get out. So when you're doing a timing belt on this thing, you're going to have to take the starter out. In order to take the starter out, you have to take the battery tray out. The linkage for the transmission has to get moved out of the way.
Oh, geez.
And then getting to the starter here, you can't do it without removing the oil filter, of course. But on this car, there are so many hoses and wires right here that slipping that out of there is very difficult. And then on top of that, you can, once I get the starter out, you can hardly see up in there at all.
Yeah.
And then, so you can't really see up there, but you're gonna have to get that tool in there to lock that crankshaft into place.
Yeah, and make sure it's lined up right.
Yeah, so you got that going against you there. And then like I said to the water pump, you're gonna do these, and I wouldn't go through the trouble of putting a timing belt on and not put like a Ford high brand water pump on this thing, because you don't want to do it ever again.
Yeah, any of those parts, don't go cheap on it.
No.
Jeez.
So make sure you do that. Put a water pump on it, but I'm sure like adding the labor to a water pump, that'd probably be another hour maybe added to it. And so then you're talking easily $1,500 to $2,000 in labor when somebody has to do one of these.
Yeah.
Okay? So Ford technicians, got all the respect in the world for them, you know?
Yes, if you know someone who is a Ford technician, go say something nice to them.
Yes.
They've had a hard time.
Yeah. Good. I've known a lot of Ford technicians, and they're definitely good mechanics.
They have to be.
Yeah. And believe me, we're going to get back to some LS stuff real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, real quick.
Yeah. All right. So next rant. This is where the intake manifold mounts on this, and this car's got a turbo on it, and this no, this is its intercooler. Okay.
Oh, nice.
And it mounts inside the intake manifold. Okay.
Okay.
Great, right?
Yeah.
All right. So there's it's sitting right about here. And then of course you've got about 1/8 of an inch or maybe 1/4 of an inch to get your fingers down in between anything there. In order to get this out, and in order to get the timing belt out, you have to take the drive axle out on the right hand side. You have to take the exhaust loose so you can lift the engine up and move it over far enough to do it. I mean, it's a nightmare. Okay. But what was interesting, I took it all apart without reading the procedure because I was just taking it apart, you know. And when I took it apart, the intake manifold was full of oil. And then as I go along, after I got it all torn apart and everything, as I started reading the procedures for it, it says 1/2 inch of oil in the bottom of the intake manifold is perfectly normal. So sitting underneath this is a half an inch of oil in the plastic intake manifold. And the intake manifold, it's back on this car, but it's a huge thing.
Plastic thing.
That fits into. So and it says that it's part of the crankcase ventilation system, but 1/2 inch of oil just sitting in the bottom. And I don't know where it comes from, but maybe somebody will tell us. I don't know. That's about all I can complain about on this one, but that's a terrible idea. A lot of people are going to get bit on that one.
Yes.
A lot of people that aren't, like seasoned mechanics, and they're just making it so the average person is going to have a hard time.
Yeah.
Or trash the engine, because it definitely would trash the engine if you turned it over and had your pistons touch the valves.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so it's at top dead center. I'm going to leave it there as we take it all apart, and then we'll see what kind of damage our spark plug material caused inside. And there's a couple things in the valve train that I'll complain about also.
Ooh.
Okay, let me go get the stand to sit it on.
Oh, okay.
All right. Alrighty, you ready to tear this baby apart?
Let's do it.
I'm gonna put this back on it.
Okay.
Okay, just to keep the cams where they're supposed to be. Never ever turn them counterclockwise, which I'm doing. Not supposed to. I'm gonna leave that on there just because when I go and I'm gonna cut this belt here in a second, and that'll keep the cams from
Flopping all over the
separating,
place.
basically.
Yeah.
And, all right, so let's cut this timing belt. And they did move. I had my hand on them and I felt them move a little bit. We're going to leave the crank exactly where it is, on top dead center. That way when we pull the head off, we can see that it's on top dead center. I'm going to pull coils out. Not going to bother taking the spark plugs out.
See some chunks down in there already. Little piece.
We're up.
Yeah, little piece right there.
Alright, this thing's direct injected. So we can take the injectors out of it. It's a high pressure fuel rail, so if it hadn't been apart in so long, you'd want to make sure it didn't have high pressure fuel in it. Cam position sensors. Okay. Probably didn't need to come out.
It's fun though.
There's gasoline in it.
Just a little bit.
Alright, so
Unplug it.
yeah, that would also be a real interesting one to do on the car.
Yeah.
Okay, direct injected fuel rail, right?
There's one underneath this phaser or whatever it is.
Oh no. Real nice. So now in order to get the valve cover off, you got to take the cam phaser out.
Super handy.
Go ahead and do these all in there. Oh, there's another one over that one.
Oh no.
Oh, I guess that wouldn't be that bad taking them out. Oh, it looks like all of them, right?
I think so.
Okay, can you see the spark plug material better?
Ooh, yes. Yeah. There's a spot right there. And then that one over in the corner. It's not supposed to be there.
Right, and all the other spark plugs, that's not where that material came from. They're all intact.
Yeah, we showed you the one that you pulled out, and then there's 1, 2, 3 still in there, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that one there's a mysterious one. Okay, you know what that is?
Like a vacuum pump?
Yeah, vacuum.
When you got a turbo, you got messes with the vacuum.
Yeah, you got no vacuum.
Ain't got no vacuum in it.
You got no vacuum.
Ding.
Okay. High pressure oil pump. Oh, it has a puck.
A puck?
Oh, okay. That's what rides
Oh.
on the cam. You know, that's my next complaint, okay? Does not have hydraulic lifters in it. It has valves with different height pucks on it.
Huh.
So in order to adjust valve clearance on this thing, before you take the cam loose at all, rock them all around, measure your valve lobe to the puck clearance. The lobe pointing straight up away from the puck, and then put in different size pucks in order to take up valve lash.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Just like VWs, Volkswagens did that, or a lot of cars did that way back when, 4-cylinders, but well, they were no fun to work on, that's for sure. It'd be great to get the head off of it without having to take the cam out, but it's not possible. The head might still be good. We may keep the head sitting around here.
Yeah, the internet did not have nice things to say about the 1.5 Ford engines, and a lot of it was about the heads and coolant consumption.
Oh, one more. Okay, vacuum pump.
Come to help, Pepper?
Good job, Pepper.
Pepper. Oh.
Oh, one more.
It's a good spot, Pepper. You won't have to worry about mice in your toolbox.
Organizing the wrenches. Where you headed? Where you going from there?
Pepper, what are you doing? Doink. Boink.
Pepper. Alright, yep, so, well, there's no pressure on the valve, so that'll come right off now, okay? And the cams do look nice. That's what stinks, is because it was a really good running, low mileage motor.
Yeah.
Oh no, the cams won't come off without having the gear taken off of them. It was real big on having bolts that stay also.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them that I took apart were like that. Alright, so head bolts, and it should come apart. Turbo will come off with it. It's not held on by anything other than the cylinder head. Alright, so what do the head bolts look like? They are
Some kind of, probably the same as the cam.
Really?
The big cam bolts down there.
Yeah, it is. Huh. Cool. Will the 3/8 do it, you think?
Nope.
Absolutely not.
Pepper, you do the next one.
You definitely wouldn't want to take this off and turn that head upside down, and then all your valve lash pucks are
Oh, yeah.
mixed up. So that'll be a problem.
Such a good spot, Pepper.
Two more. Two more.
The middle one's different for some reason.
There it goes.
Easily. Oil. I think it just.
Oh, that too. Yes.
Oh, there's like a Torx. That thing.
Yeah, and then too on the older ones, these are made out of rubber.
Yes.
They will leak.
A lot, real fast.
Alright, so here we go. Head's coming off. Oh, the head bolts are going to hold it. They go in at a little different angle. What do you think, Ripley?
You gonna help?
You guys ought to throw a frisbee for me. What?
Have you ever heard of frisbee time? Oh my goodness.
Alright, here we go.
Here we go. Yay!
Oh. Alright.
Okay. You can definitely see where something was in there.
Yep, some little
crunched up.
pieces. Okay, and it's top dead center. That's we were worried about that.
Yep. Pretty scored. Yeah, that's definitely not. It's just 70,000 miles of happy driving.
Huh. Nope.
Anything on the other ones too? Definitely number one there is our worst.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yeah, if you feel that, it just feels like sand.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that's what we expected to see. It probably doesn't come through on the camera very well, but there's a score in there that I can catch my fingernail on in a few different spots. Okay, so it's got a couple of good lines in it, like a piece got a wedge between the piston and scored it right there. The rest of the cylinders, for the most part, look pretty good. Okay,
Yeah.
all the pieces that were in there probably blew out in the amount of time that I ran it.
Yeah, but I mean, you can definitely, it doesn't feel like carbon.
Right. Yeah, it's pieces of something.
Yeah, it feels like sand. Like
Yeah.
there's oily sand.
Yeah. So
There you go. Okay, so I think we've seen all we need to see here. We've answered all the questions we needed to answer. It is in fact as bad as what we thought, so that's nice.
yep. It's a real bummer. Those things happen. But just doing something as simple as spark plugs or things that you have to pay attention to, okay?
Yep. Account for all the pieces when you're done.
That's right.
Don't leave pieces in there.
That's right. Otherwise you'll be buying tools like I have been this week.
Tools and engines.
Tools and engines.
Also, if you missed it in the last video, we announced we're gonna have another Thanksgiving Live. Make sure you follow us on social media so you keep up with the updates on that. We got a ton of cool giveaways lined up for that, so make sure you join us. We'd love to have you. I've also been adding a ton of merch to our merch store. We got coffee mugs, we got hoodies, we got hats. Go buy yourself something nice and make sure you're looking sharp for the holiday season. We really appreciate the support. We appreciate you guys watching, and we will catch you next time.
defective.
Oh,
There
sorry.
she is.
Sorry, Juice. Juice, what are you doing? Hey, what are you eating? Give me that. Give me it. That's a stick. Let's not eat sticks.